Hey everyone,
Hello,
welcome to
everybody.
Tribe Talk. My name's Cliff.
My name's Thomas.
My main man, and tonight we have an awesome guest. She's in Phoenix in Arizona. I've been following this lady for, I'm going to say years on Facebook, and she is an absolutely awesome activist. The amount of work that she puts in is just puts me to shame. So Andrea is a grassroots animal rights activist, community organizer for DXE and the Save movement, master of global animal law and society, founder of Eradicate Speciesism, and PETA action leader. So, Andrea, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. I was going to say this evening, but it's this morning for you in Phoenix, yeah?
Wow. It is, yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being able to sit here and chat with you too.
Awesome.
The pleasure's all ours.
Yeah. I can just back what he said. Like, he put me onto you, and I was looking at your Instagram, and it's literally all you do is activism. And the passion, I was saying to you, it just burns, and you can just see that. It doesn't, it's not hard to tell that this is something you live and breathe, and it's brilliant to be able to connect and touch base and, hopefully spread some truth here and all that. So thanks so much, Andrea. You're awesome. And we really, really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully you can understand their accents okay.
Oh my God.
We don't need an interpreter.
I spent a little bit of time over there. I spent a little time in the UK. I think I got it.
Yeah, you were at the Animal Rights March, weren't you?
Yeah, in London in 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how far back I was peeping that. But yeah. And then you went to New York after for the march there?
I did, and I almost missed it. I made it by like 30 minutes. My friends and I had to catch the tail end of the march just to make it on time.
Those two dates weren't too far apart. Was that what it was? It was just...
I was already in Europe. I think it was a couple days after or something. It was very, very close. Yeah, but I had to be there.
Awesome.
So you were there too? You stood on the same hallowed ground then? Both of you at the same time?
Yeah, we were probably there at the same time. 2018,
wow. That's amazing.
We've breathed similar oxygen.
I love that.
Whatever that means. But yeah, we should probably get into the show anyway.
Yeah. Do you want to go with the first question then? Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I heard that you were born on a farm. Is that true?
Wow. That is very true. Yes, here in South Phoenix. And no one ever believes me. I don't know if it's just the way that I present myself, but everyone's like, no way, not true. 1,000% true.
Wow. And then you're an animal rights activist. Like, how do you go from being born on a farm, you know what I mean, to be an activist?
It was a very long journey. But I don't know. I would witness slaughter. It's some of my earliest memories is witnessing slaughter. It's very, very dark. And I think, very, very vivid memories that I have of these things happening. And I knew that it was wrong in my heart. Like I just knew at that moment, like, this is not supposed to be happening. But I let the world convince me that this is the only way that I can survive. I had no idea what veganism, vegetarianism, I had no idea that there were alternatives. And then just growing up, I always had a strong connection with animals. And it's actually interesting. An old girlfriend of mine posted a video of a chicken slaughterhouse on Facebook. And this was not the first time I'd seen chickens being killed, but her caption said that you cannot love animals and eat them too. And I was just like, blown away. And
bullet of truth.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, I've been, completely lied to, and I've been lying to myself this entire time. And so as much of a shock as it is for other people to think, a girl who grew up on a farm can be an activist, for my family, it wasn't that big of a shock because I would always spend my time I was always with the animals. I didn't want to be with my cousins. I wanted to be with the pigs and the cows, chickens, goats. I just said they were my friends. They were my true friends. So I think it worked out very well. I'm where I'm supposed to be for sure.
And what age would you say that you seen like slaughter? And then sort of when did you make the change?
My earliest memory, it was before I was in school. So I must have been around 4 years old, and they were a cow. Yeah, very, very vivid. I remember the sounds, the sights, the smells, everything. And I did not watch that video until I turned 27. So it was a pretty big gap of me lying to myself.
Well, I mean, we're all guilty.
Yeah.
I think
it's just the way we're lied to by society when we're brought up. Like, I mean, I always tell everybody, Andrea, I was an animal lover since I was knee high. You're just brought up to believe, like you, that the necessity of doing these, well, maybe not doing them yourself, but paying other people to do things to animals that you would never do yourself. And it's crazy, like how society bends our minds into believing that this is normal behavior. So it's absolutely awesome that you grew up on a farm and you've changed. I mean, what a story that is, and what a story to be able to tell people. It's just amazing.
I mean, it kind of makes sense when you say that you were always around the animals and you obviously didn't grow up with a knife in your hand. But yeah, it's just like unlikely that people probably outside of that sphere, you know, because a lot of people that are on a farm always work on the farm and go into that industry and all that, you know.
Yes, no, definitely.
Andrea, at what point then did you realize you wanted to become an activist? Not just vegan, but you wanted to make a difference and to get out there and do something?
It was instantly. As soon as I watched the video, I remember hearing about this film called Cowspiracy on Netflix. And so I went straight to my couch, threw it on, and just learning about, you know, all the manipulation and just everything completely being destroyed from what I was taught from a child. I was so angry. I was so angry that day. And like, I had spoken out about other social justice issues in my past, and I've, you know, my nickname was Motor Mouth when I was a kid because I'm very vocal about things. And so I just, as soon as I learned what was happening and understanding the connection that I had with animals, I knew that day, like, I have to do something about this, even if it's just me telling as many people as possible, like, I have to get involved.
Wow, powerful.
What was your first way into activism? How did you start? Did you join a group, or did you start your own group, or did you go out and give leaflets to people, or what way did you get into it?
So at the time, I was what was considered good at Instagram. It was a lot easier to get, you know, likes and views on Instagram. So I had a pretty decent following, and I just turned my entire page into an activism page. I thought, like, I need to share this information. People need to know what's happening. So I started doing social media advocacy, but within the first couple of weeks, I was trying to find local groups. And I couldn't really find anything. There was no DXC, there was no SAVE. I wasn't too sure about what was happening with PETA locally. So the very first thing I did in person was I got a group of 3 of my girlfriends. I got my little brother and little sister and all my friends' kids, and we had this, you know, cute little group of 10 people, and we went to this like dolphin aquarium that they used to have in Arizona, which is there's no dolphins there anymore.
Yes.
But we walked in with our signs and we were just standing there. And
so
we actually learned after the fact that it was actually native land. So we're not allowed to protest there. Our US laws don't apply there. So we left. But that was the very first time that I got a taste of what it's like to stand up for the animals. And I knew I had to keep doing more.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely relate to that. Whenever the first activism event that I went to, it was a Cube of Truth. And I was kind of feeling a bit nervous going because I didn't know how it was going to pan out. But then I realized I was a bit of a motor mouth too. I really enjoyed speaking to people about this and watching people's like social conditioning unravel in front of your eyes. And I was like, man, I could really do something with this. So from then, like, the fires just never went out.
I want to know, on your social media, how did it go down when you went from normal post to posting animal rights stuff? How did that go down?
People were not happy. They were like, this is not the content I signed up for. Like, they were not feeling it at all.
I thought I knew you.
You changed for sure. No, but so obviously, you know, I lost a lot of followers, and I really didn't care because I started like networking with different activists around the world, and I started meeting so many new people, and the people who I really wanted to target began to follow the work that I was posting. So it worked out for the best, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you say about that? Like, I kind of cut my chops online as well. Like, when I switched up, I was arguing with friends and some family, and that's where I kind of learned how to know what to say to the, you know, objections and ridiculous questions and things.
I think you either continue to be angry or you channel it to a place where you
It's
be
productive.
most effective and use it as motivation to try and be the best activist that you can be, rather than wasting your time arguing with people all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
See, on social media, see, still to this day, I don't know what it is, like psychologically, but see, when I engage in a debate and I say my piece and then it's their time to say something, see, when I get that notification that they've said something, I get like all kind of, I don't know, like a bit nervous. I'm like, oh, what are they going to say? But then every time I come back to it and I read what they say, it reminds me there's nothing that people can say to justify this behavior. And I still don't know why, after I've been vegan 5 years, why I still get that feeling before I check that notification, as if like there's something that's going to, put a hole in the boat or something, but it never does.
No,
It's
there's
weird.
never any. Yeah, we've heard all of the excuses. I feel like there's a textbook for these people with the excuses, so we already know what they're going to say. But it's very much that like the argument aspect it's really unsettling. Like, I'm not an activist because I want to fight with people. This is not a fun thing for me, and so I definitely can relate to that nervous feeling you get when they reply. But they're never going to tell you anything we've never heard before, and they're never going to find, like you said, a proper justification for what's actually happening. So.
I just realized what it is.
I'm just laughing at myself. I'm just thinking, when you're a vegan activist now, you can just spend your days arguing with other vegans on Facebook if you want. Seems to be the way of the world now. Andrea, why do you feel that taking action is so important for vegans? Tell people why you think they must get out there and do something for the animals.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. And it's something that I've been thinking about a lot in my last couple of years. Rather than turning people vegan, I shifted my focus into turning vegans into activists, or helping them become better activists. I do trainings. We were doing monthly trainings, and just trying to supply them with as much knowledge as possible. And what it comes down to is that, like, supply and demand, they're not going to work with the animal agriculture industry, because, of course, as you know, countries are giving subsidies to these industries. They're keeping them afloat. Yeah. So for every, 5 people, if I truly turn them vegan, not just plant-based for a few weeks like most of them end up doing, if they stay vegan, and they stay vegan forever, for every 5 people I turn vegan, there's going to be 100 who are born who are going to be consuming animals. And so it's kind of like and it's really like an uphill battle at this point. So for me, I can be opposed to any other form of social injustice all day long, but if I'm not taking action to actively end it, then I feel like I'm not doing my part, and we're just going to, be riding this wave for a long time. So getting active is so crucial.
I agree. Couldn't put it any better.
The supply and demand thing it's a hard pill to swallow. I remember like the days when you could hang on to that. I think though, what do you think about this? I think over time, like when you create vegans, say you create 5 vegans, and not like through birth, but through mind, their mindset, right? You create 5 vegans, and maybe there's 100 non-vegans born at the same time or whatever. I think like though, with the whole vegan message growing over time, the supply and demand thing will come back into play and we'll be at a point. Do you agree? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, we have to shift public consciousness, of course, but we don't have that big of a demand yet for it to make a difference. Realistically, we don't. All our demand is doing is creating, vegan or plant-based options, which is great because we want it to be accessible, but we're not at that point where our demand is going to shut down these industries, unfortunately.
I know. Just means it's all the more reason, to keep fighting and fight hard.
It's an uphill battle, but it doesn't mean that you stop trying. Yeah, we must always try.
Of course, absolutely.
You said there that you do training. You would like host training sessions and stuff, yeah? Yeah,
so for the local community, for anybody who wants to be involved, and I started doing them last year during lockdown, because most of the activists in the U.S., we get our training from the Animal Liberation Conference, which is held in Berkeley every year. And obviously not having that, there were a lot of new people who didn't have access to like security culture training, how to rescue an animal, photo, video, so many different aspects, nonviolence training. So we were getting groups online, thank goodness for this internet here. And we were able to present the information that they could use once things opened up and once we started to do in-person activism again.
Wow, I mean, it kind of leads to the next question. Do so much activism, train vegans to be better activists. Like, what do you do, you know, for like downtime? How do you look after yourself when you feel like what they call compassion fatigue and that sort of thing, and burnout? And yeah, like, what's your sort of, if you don't mind me just prying into your life, like, how do you sustain it long term? Because I think it's really important to hear different perspectives from vegan activists on that, and just generally to share that, because I don't think it's like heard enough, you know. It's really important to look after yourself.
We see so much burnout as well from people who come to vigils and stuff, and then their mind just, I don't know. I mean, when you go to a vigil or a save or any of those things, or an MTV, which you've done and we've done as well, the mental trauma from that is terrible.
So I just want to remind you, Cliff, that question was for Andrea.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying.
I know.
No, you're definitely right. We see it all the time, and I was told that the average lifespan of an activist in any movement is 6 months. 6 months is it's nothing. That's nothing. And
where'd you hear that?
From a cult organizer in Arizona.
Wow,
so
they've seen it then.
So she's definitely seen it. She's been doing this longer than I have. So, I think I was one of those people that thought, because I, had witnessed slaughter for so long, and, I grew up, and I don't want to give a sad story, but like I grew up with intense bullying from like kindergarten to high school. So my skin is pretty thick, and I thought for me, I was like, I can go and do these type of things and I'll be okay. Even though I was crying after every truck passed by at a vigil, I thought, I can do it. And so I made the mistake of going into doing investigations and not giving myself any time to heal, aside from crying, which I'm a big advocate for, because it
for sure, me too.
It helps so. Yes, we all need to cry more, really do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just going, head in first with this thing, and I didn't give myself a break, and I finally broke down last year. And I was having a lot of issues with anxiety and panic attacks, and these type of things, if you don't handle them, they'll show up as physical ailments, which a lot of people don't realize. And I was suffering a long time. Absolutely. Like it will show up as really awful things, and it, feels like you're dying almost. So I made that mistake of not realizing that I need to schedule breaks in order for this to not happen. So once I realized that there was a connection between the things that I was doing and the way that I was feeling after, I downloaded this app called Insight Timer. They're not paying me. I just really love this app. And it's just a meditation. And I found myself crying after every meditation. And I'm like, I really have some stuff I need to deal with. But it's forcing. You have to force yourself to take breaks. You honestly have to force yourself.
Yeah. Cliff, what's your take on that? Because this guy, I'm like with you, but he actually said earlier, I remember when I had emotions. we were talking about something, but that's what he said.
Thomas and me deal with stuff differently. So Thomas is very much on your side with the meditation and downtime and self-care. I talk about it a lot, but I never actually do it. And I've developed this thing where, when I go to a save or an MTV and I see the animals in pain, it hurts me so deeply. But I've got this on-off switch where between my brain and my heart, I can switch off and say, right, okay, I have to deal with this, and I just get on with it. But I'm kind of burying the emotions deep down. And I agree with what you said, that it's not good for your physical health. Like if you've got that mental trauma going on and you're just not doing anything with it, eventually long term it's bound to affect your physical being. He's at me every day of the week to meditate more, by the way.
I actually said to him, every time we meet from this point on, we should meditate for at least 5 minutes together before we do anything, because I'm incredibly passionate about it. It's completely changed my life, and it's so healing. The weird thing for me though is the same as all of us, we've seen so much slaughterhouse footage and animals in real life and what happens. I hate to say this, I feel very, very little these days when I see that stuff, because I see it pretty much every single day of my life, and it's not like I look for it. You know, it's in your social media, and I don't know if this is healthy or not, but I don't mind it. It keeps, not that I'll ever forget, but it keeps me in that place where that's always going to be in my awareness, that it's always happening. And to people who might watch this and they're not vegan, they might be like, that sounds really unhealthy. It's not like I feel like I can't go without watching it, and it's not like I get some sort of kick out of it. It's just, I don't know. I feel maybe, I mean, I can hold my hand up and admit when it is maybe something I need to change or consider, but I just feel like when I stop saying it, it's maybe turning my back, because they never get a break, you know? Maybe it's not that healthy. What do you think?
No, I definitely understand what you're saying. And then as far as you kind of becoming desensitized to it, it's just something your body's doing to protect you. Like, I truly believe it's not because it doesn't kill you. It absolutely does break your heart. Your body is trying to make you survive. That's what our bodies do. So it's definitely a thing I feel like a lot of veteran advocates go through. I'm on the same page as you. I think that I always want to know what's going on. And I think that from not ignoring those videos, from not ignoring what's actually happened, that's been my driving force. That's what's keeping me going. Like, when I say I take a break, it's like 2 days max. And it comes like once every 6 months. And the reason that I do that is I'm watching the videos like you are. And from my understanding, a lot of the other advocates that are just going hard constantly, they're the exact same way. Like, we keep the animals at the forefront because we understand that they don't get to turn the TV off and go away and that not exist. You know, it's always happening. So I can't ignore it. And I'm glad that there's others out there that feel the same.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't always that way. I have broke down and cried so much, and I've been there, you know, but it's almost like you can't cry anymore, and you don't, I don't know, like, you know, your emotional glands are like kind of burned out. And it's interesting because I would meditate like almost every day, sometimes for an hour or more. And, you know, you do that work and it obviously does help you heal and stuff, but it's never brought that sensitivity back to me, that emotional sensitivity. And I would kind of like to have that back, but I might need to go do like a 10-day Vipassana course or something to really access that. But yeah, I hate that I don't feel much for it. I just logically know.
I think everybody just deals with things in a different way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, we're all human beings, but we all deal with and access emotions differently. So, I mean, I wouldn't beat yourself up about it. It's
not at all.
You're still doing the good work.
I know. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to go to the next question for Andrea, unless you want to expand on that.
We expand on what?
What we were talking about.
I feel like that was an expansion.
Yeah, okay. We're so professional here, Andrea. So we wanted to ask you what you're currently working on and what all you've really. I wanted to ask you as well what all you've done in the past, like with Save and DXE. What all have you done, and what are you currently working on?
Yeah, so after I was doing the social media stuff, I found a group of people that were going to be opening up a DXE chapter and a Save chapter in my city. And so I immediately joined them, started doing those efforts. I was doing a lot of traveling, so I wasn't doing a lot of organizing. And I was, one of the activists that would pop up and do what I could when I could. And then it got to the point where I wanted to start organizing. And so the first action I actually organized was co-organized with a friend named Massine in Barcelona, was a Meet the Victims. And
wow, first event that you co-organized was Meet the Victims?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
After that, I was like, I can organize street side stuff. Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah.
That was a great crash course. Yeah, and I don't know if you all know who Massine is, but he was 17 at the time that we had organized.
Young kid, yeah.
Yes.
Like dark hair.
Yes, yeah.
I think I follow him.
Yeah, he's really
he travels
great.
Quite a lot.
He's been traveling a lot as of late, but he had already organized. His family is from, I'm drawing a blank.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting
Northern
you.
Africa. No, it's fine. It's a country in Northern Africa. It's right across from Spain.
Algeria, Libya.
No.
Northern Africa.
Morocco.
Yeah, good man. My geography's
They're
terrible.
They're the top 3 in Africa. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like he had experience, and like I was at first, I'm like, this kid's 17. What does he know? But like super meticulous and organized, and like he had Excel spreadsheets. So anyway, great kid. But yeah, after doing that, I came back to the States and I started organizing different things with SAVE and DXE here. And then I started a group called Eradicate Speciesism. And the purpose of that is really to focus on local targets and just keep it local, just so that we have a say in, what's happening at a local level. So we've been doing mainly a lot of fundraising right now, just because currently we're working with Rise for Animals, which is a U.S. organization, and they focus on animals who are used in laboratories. So there was a media release showing that ASU, Arizona State University, which is the school I received my bachelor's from, have a monkey lab, and they're cutting into monkeys' brains and doing testing. They're strapped down for up to 6 hours a day, only getting a drop of water every hour, all in the name of science. So yeah, it was absolutely horrific.
Sick.
And like, people don't even know this is happening. I had no idea. This has been here for 3 years, and I'm an advocate. That's how well it's been hidden.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're currently working on a campaign against ASU to get those monkeys released. And Rise for Animals does have a sanctuary that they've already agreed to take them in. So hopefully we can get them released.
That's amazing. That's really good.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
The testing is like, I know it's all bad, but the testing, because it's cloaked in academia, you know what I mean? It's all for progress. If you're not a vegan, you wouldn't think twice about that being an ethical thing. So prestigious and all that.
Right.
I don't even understand the money side of it, but so many universities seem to be involved in animal testing. It's in the UK and in America.
Maybe all.
I don't understand why that is, but it's just so horrendous.
It really is. And it's honestly a great way for them to make money. Like, this program alone has received millions of dollars from the National Science Foundation. And we actually learned that the entire purpose of this project that they're working on, there's 6 other universities working on it, is to create or to integrate artificial intelligence into sharpshooters, into people in the military. Like, this is what my local university, and they're being paid by this thing called DARPA. So it's the Department of Defense, essentially. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. An educational institution is putting their hands in creating, war machines out of people, which is absolutely sickening.
Torture.
I actually read an article recently about, so it's when they were developing weapons for the Iraq war. This is the UK military. And some of the stuff that they were doing to pigs, Andrea, was just like, I cannot believe. They were shooting them at close range over and over again, but then keeping them alive to see how many bullet wounds they could take. And then they were setting them on fire. And it was just like, oh my God, I cannot believe, no matter how you try to validate that, how people can do such a thing and go home and sleep in their bed at night. It's just absolutely horrendous.
It's legalized torture. It's absolutely, and it's, the public approves of it because they're like, oh, science, oh, progress. But at what point do we realize, like, we can't torture someone for our own progress? This is 100% abuse. It's disgusting, and it says a lot about, humans as a species.
Yeah.
I remember when I was reading about animal testing in Peter Singer's Animal Liberation, and he was saying how, when they're at that level of testing and stuff, all they really need to do to keep breeding animals and keep the testing going is really write in the liner notes that they need more research and they need to test more. And that is accepted as like a valid reason to keep doing that, which is so messed up. Like,
can I just say, for if anybody's watching and you're not sure about research and all that, any charity, generally, rule of thumb, if it says research after the name, personally, I don't give to it, or I go and find out. The research means they're testing on animals, so don't give your money to that. Give your money to a charity that does something good with the money.
AKA vegan sanctuaries.
Give them more money. Give them as much money as you can. Like, these are like the real heroes, and they're so often overlooked. I think that's a really big thing with Eradicate Speciesism. The group we have here is really putting the light back on the animals who also get rescued, because we can't just rescue them and forget about them. We have to take care of them forever, and we have to really take care of the people who are, you know, doing the work day in and day out to make sure that these animals are safe. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Could I throw in a question here that we
Yeah.
hadn't planned to ask? You were saying, Andrea, that you do a lot of like local campaigning and stuff. So how do you feel about single issue campaigns?
It's kind of floating around my head
against
too,
like big worldwide campaigns? So the system change or individual change and all that semantics between single issues, basically. How do you feel about single issue rather than everybody change all at the same time? If that makes sense.
No, it does. And this is something I had like an internal battle about when I started school, because I went into, you know, school thinking like, I am an abolitionist. I want this all to end. I don't want bigger cages. I don't want, you know, more humane ways to kill, because that doesn't exist. And the more that I looked into it, the more that I realized not everyone's going to wake up tomorrow and say like, hey, we all are going to stop harming animals. Like, as much as I want that to happen, it's not going to happen. And so I completely did a 180 with my viewpoint on this. You know, the path to liberation is going to look like the way that we shape it. And so for single issue campaigns, and I can use what happened with Saks Fifth Avenue. I'm not sure if you're aware. There's this huge retailer, really high-end retailer called Saks Fifth Avenue. Yes, the fur campaign, and they just dropped fur. So with something like that, you know, we could be doing actions all the time saying, don't wear fur, don't wear fur. But the United States really mobilized and targeted this one company, and they dropped fur. And it took like less than 6 months, if I'm not mistaken, of like constant pressure.
Pretty good.
Yeah, and the great thing about fashion is it's not subsidized by the government. So supply and demand actually does.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
That's really good, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, there are going to be less animals who are harmed. And that company, with losing a really big buyer like that, they can shut down. And if it gets to the point where these like fur farmers realize there's no money in this, eventually like the system's going to shut down. So I do believe in single issue campaigns. I also think it's a great way for communities to really practice campaigning, because a lot of us don't know what we're doing realistically when it starts out. So I think also having those small wins is a great motivator, and it keeps people going. So I support single issue campaigns.
I would completely agree with that. And I've never thought about it to the depth that you've shared there. I like the idea of building off small wins, and with a single campaign, you can really focus in on your methods, what your target is, and your whole strategy. Whereas we generally just go for advocating veganism as a whole, but it's, you know, as you know, that can be harder to sort of, you know, like if we have someone in their say at a Cube of Truth and they're watching slaughterhouse footage and we're just talking about, essentially you could say that is single issue, but I always make a point to say it's not just about food, it's about this and that. So I keep it quite broad, but with single issue, I mean, you can be straight to the heart of the matter, and there's no dancing around it with people. So I think it's a good thing.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you. The
You're
awesome
okay.
American guy, the fur campaigner, he goes into
Rob
store.
Banks.
Rob Banks, have you ever seen
He's
him?
awesome.
Yeah, I follow him. Great.
He's amazing. Like, that guy is absolutely fearless.
He's so cool.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think about
I've seen something today and I haven't watched it yet, but I think he shamed Drake. So Drake, I think I must have a clothing line out with fur, and Rob Banks turned up. So I haven't watched it yet.
Wow, I've seen him turn up at
how.
a few celebrity spots. How does he find these people?
Them. I don't know. I always want to know, like, are you on an email list? Like, how do you know?
Wow.
He is literally the most fearless activist I have ever seen in my life. Some of the stuff he's done is just like, wow, man. I'm in awe.
He's brilliant.
Awesome.
Wait, before we go on, I want to just ask you, what do you think about single issue? Because I feel like you're a bit...
I struggle with single issue. That's why he's asking me. I mean, where do you want to go? I struggle with it.
Why do you struggle with it?
Because I feel when you go to single issue campaigns that it can be confusing. So one thing we have here, Andrea, is greyhound racing. And you could go to a greyhound racing protest and then you're standing beside people who are not vegan. And I find that I want to say to those people, hey, I know you're here for the dogs. There's all this other crap going on as well. And you obviously love animals, but I find that if you do it at that event, then it comes across really badly, that you've gone for the wrong reason. So I struggle with it for that reason. I think that's the main one.
Do you mean it comes across really badly?
I've come to your event to protest the dog racing, but now I'm tackling you about something else. Does that?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a term for that, and I can't think of it. The only term I'm thinking of is hijacking for some reason, but it's kind of like you're utilizing that opportunity to talk about another movement, which is, people have their feelings about. But I definitely think, and there's some graph I saw that people who actually care about animals are more likely to be on our side than people who don't care at all. So those are the people. Like if I were you, I would try to, get their contact information, follow me on Instagram, and then maybe you can turn this person into a potential ally for all issues, because their foot's in the door. They understand the basics, but they're not there yet. They're still confused with everything society has told them.
Yeah.
I thought when Andrea said there's a term for that, she was going to say it's being an asshole.
No.
No, I think
Not at all.
solid.
I was bracing myself for it.
If you're delicate about the suggestion and like subtly be like, oh, check out my social media, it's a good way for them to, in their own comfort zone, like look at other things,
Yeah.
Comfort zone to a degree, obviously, because it's not about keeping people comfortable.
Exactly. But I think it may make the person more receptive to what you're going to say, because if they're in the moment and they're focusing on the greyhounds, I don't know, maybe they don't want to hear anything else. But if you build a relationship with this person, maybe do a community meeting online, kind of just suck them in basically without sounding culty. Yeah, that would be a great method.
Let me think. We mentioned earlier that you have a master's in animal law. What's the full name of it?
The full name of
Animal Global.
Oh, it's a Master's of Global Animal Law and Society. I'm still shocked I have one. I never in my life thought I'd have a master's degree.
You were shocked when I brought it up there. That blows me away. What would you say? I know. How long were you studying that for?
The classes only were 8 months long. 6 months long. It was full time though, 8-hour days, 5 days a week.
Wow,
and then I had a couple months to do my thesis afterwards.
Wow. I mean, that's next level. What would you say is like a big takeaway from that you learned that you wouldn't have gleaned otherwise from just, maybe doing street activism and things like that? It's obviously more about the law, isn't it?
Yeah, it does go into detail, but to be completely frank, what I actually learned in the class was not like what I took away from it the most. Something that I noticed is I was one of 2 vegans in the entire class, which was extremely shocking for me.
Wow, yeah.
And I spent a lot of the time, advocating for, a vegan lifestyle, and even going back and forth with the teacher who said, if you have a baby, you need to eat eggs. And it was just a mess. It was a whole mess. But, me being motor mouth, I did not keep quiet on that. So I think the biggest thing that I learned is that people who are involved in, animal rights organizations are not necessarily on the same wavelength as us. And so I think we rely really heavily on these bigger organizations to, convey a message that we want, but in reality, like they're not all there yet. And I would like us all, I think in order for us to be really successful, it would be best for us all to get to that point where we understand using animals in every way, shape, or form is wrong. And it was just a really big wake-up call for me, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's a whole different way to approach. I guess I would call that activism. It's another weapon in your arsenal, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Like you know about it in a different perspective, so it's always going to come into play. I'm sure it influences your thought patterns and the way you perceive things. So
I was going to ask Andrea, you mentioned there that all organizations are not in the same wavelength. So you'll see all this arguing online about why people don't like AV and get a bad rap, and you've been in activism long enough to see that and understand what's going on. How do you feel about that? Do you kind of forgive the small misdemeanors of these? I mean, who are we to judge? But you understand what I mean? If you don't always agree with what an organization says, do you just say, well, okay, they're doing a greater good? Or how do you feel about that and all that arguing that goes on? Yeah.
I wish you hadn't have asked me that.
Oh, here we go.
3 hours later.
It's there's just so much and so many different ways we could go with this. I think it really just depends on how intense the transgressions are that the organization commits. And there's always going to be small things that they do that are blown out of proportion from the people on the other end. And that we see that a lot. We see that a lot with like PETA. Like, you know, PETA has this really bad rep, and and it's awful, but I don't know. It just really depends on how bad it is. Like my biggest thing, like being a Hispanic woman in the United States, being a bisexual woman, like I don't have the like freedom to ignore other social justice movements. And so for me, it's really important for organizations to understand that a lot of vegans or animal rights activists, we're fighting for like total liberation, collective liberation. And obviously our focus is the animals, but when other people don't acknowledge those type of things, for me, it makes me less comfortable to work with them because it makes me feel like my safety is not important to these organizations. So, and I'm probably going to get a lot of hate because there's a lot of back and forth on this issue. But
I didn't want to put you in a position to hate and to talk.
Disgraceful.
Not talk about anybody in particular. I'm just wondering about. No, my intention wasn't to put Andrea on the spot. It was,
of course. No, it's a controversial thing, and I agree with you. It's a case by case basis. It depends how bad it is. People are imperfect. Sometimes people say things that they don't really mean. They were in the heat of the moment. Sometimes people say things without thinking. And once it's online, it's like there forever. It gets screenshotted. It gets sent about. Crazy people put their own spin on it.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to keep up with it all, but I really think it's just a case by case basis.
Yeah.
Sure.
P is a prime example, and I think we can all talk about that because everybody knows about the
I think PETA gets such a bad rep.
Half the activists think PETA are great, and all
I don't think
people over here are
like,
like, PETA suck. And it's just it's so headfirming all the time. To deal with it, like you just wish everybody was on the same page. But I mean, who are we to decide what's right or wrong? I suppose.
Exactly. We're all humans. We all have different backgrounds. So obviously our opinions on a lot of things are going to be different. Obviously there's things where your opinion or difference of opinion makes a difference. Like when we're talking about racism, sexism, things of that nature, but it's definitely a case by case basis.
Yeah.
Could we ask then what's the most challenging action you've participated in for you personally?
Wow, good question.
Honestly, I would say the Meet the Victims, just because with all of their actions, like you're a little bit more removed from what's happening to the animals. So you get to focus on, you know, your speak outs, your chants, your message or outreach. But when you're inside of a building where there's, you know, thousands upon thousands of pigs screaming and literally dying in front of your eyes, it's really hard to turn off that emotional part and focus on the role that you're meant to do in that moment. I would say that was 100% the hardest action that I've ever done and probably that I'll ever do in my entire life.
Meet the Victims, And
you all know, since you all experienced that, since you experienced it as well. It's something that you'll never forget.
Have you done, how many of those have you done, Andrea? Just one, or have you done several?
Yeah, no, just the one.
Same.
That's not judgment, by the way. I'm just saying we've only ever done one.
One is enough, but obviously, if the opportunity's there, you'll do. You know, you go for it. Just
before all the lockdown and stuff started last year, and it's going to be the same for you. Everybody thinks local farms. No, somebody over there is treating animals badly, but in your local area, all the farmers are good to the animals, and we have the highest standards. And wherever you go in the world, everybody's got the highest standards. It's insane.
Somehow
it's ridiculous.
So Northern Ireland can be quite rural, and everybody knows everybody, and they tend to think that farms here are, you know, they're the best farmers in the world. So Meet the Victims was organised here, and we attended it, and the conditions
It was a family farm as well. It was like a small, you know, it was that whole like facade, you know what I mean? And then you lift the lid and there's rotten corpses and there's blood stains and mutilation and you know. That was actually on my birthday when we did that. It's crazy.
Oh
I think I see on your sorry, you go first and then I'll ask you.
I was just going to say that I follow Meet the Victims very closely around the world, and the one that you all did, the one you did in Northern Ireland, those photos have stuck with me the most because they were so horrific. And like you said, they were a family farm and claiming to be, you know, everything that they were not, and it was just absolutely horrible. And that happens everywhere you go. It's interesting because people online try to like make it seem like we pick the worst farms and go photograph. Yeah, and it's like we literally, like, for most people, you pick them at random. You go in, you see, hey, can I go in here? Cool, let's go. And so that's how it happens. And I think it's just an easier way for them to deflect their contribution to it is by saying, like, there's no way that, you know, the animals I consume live like this, but they all live like that.
Yeah. I made a video of us in there, and then a year later, like on the sort of date, I had actually collected a load of comments from people's outrage at the time, and I made a compilation video and just went through the comments of people's reactions. And that was one of the comments. It was something to the effect of, why do you pick, or why do you try and tar all the farmers with the same brush? Like you're looking at the worst and saying everybody's the same. Well, I mean, like, it can't get much like better than a family farm, right? So if that's a family farm and there's cannibalism going on, you know what I mean? It's got to be somewhat consistent farm to farm.
We have a thing here called Red Tractor, which is the 5-star approval rating. That farm was Red Tractor approved, and apparently they'd been there like 2 weeks before. It's just so they lost their Red Tractor approval for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks later got it back again and operational again.
Know that. I remember hearing they lost it. I didn't know for 2 weeks. What changes could they make in 2 weeks to their entire operation?
I didn't know that either.
I mean, have you seen the state of the place, Andrea? It need raised to the ground. So what they did in there in 2 weeks, I have no idea. You would have needed an army of 500 men to go into that place and make a difference in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, but I believe now they've got security cameras and fences and stuff up everywhere. So.
Yeah, because that's what a company who's acting ethically does. Hide stuff.
Who's got nothing to hide.
Yeah,
just on that, do you have the ag laws in Phoenix? I know some parts of America have that. No,
fortunately in Arizona we do not, and those were challenged, I think, like 10 years ago by PETA. So we're very fortunate in our state to not have to worry about that. Still have to worry about trespassing, but who doesn't?
Yeah, we do as well.
Well, we don't, because it's trespass here is not a criminal offence; it's a civil matter.
Really?
So I
thought it was recently made.
No, it's changing. So it's a civil matter. So the farmer would need to take you or everybody who was on his farm to court, just civil court. But it's not a criminal offence, so the police can't actually charge you at the minute with a criminal offence. But I don't know if you've seen the Kill the Bill stuff that's going on over here. So they're bringing in all these. They're trying to do away with protests and people going on to farms and Extinction Rebellion and all these things. So they're bringing in new laws, and they're now making it a criminal offence. So if you go onto a farm, then the police will be able to turn up and arrest you for that. Whereas before, they just turned up to keep the peace. So worrying times for people here doing that type of thing.
Yeah.
I seen on your Instagram, Andrea, you were on a farm recently that seemed to be a closed down farm. There was like just the bare bones of what used to be there. What was that?
Yeah, actually, we found that at random. It used to be a dairy farm. They had like the milking parlors, and it was completely empty. And so in Arizona, quite a few of dairy farms have gone under. And a big part of that is, I'm not sure if you all are familiar with the Fairlife expose that happened, where they showed workers literally punching calves in the face. And it was this huge scandal here. But that company was scheduled to move to Arizona in 2019, and they were basically making it so the smaller farms, had to sell their cows, and they were taking over. But
bigger industry.
Yeah, basically. And, of course, they gave the little sad story about how they're so upset they, have to that they have to sell their cows to slaughter, as if that's not where they all go anyway at the end
Yeah,
of
the
this.
farmers are the victims here.
Oh, of course. Poor them. They didn't make enough profit. Sad.
And the two guys that were punching the cows, they weren't part. We just got rid of them and got two nice people in that tickle the cows and give them belly rubs all day long.
Of course. Yeah, it was just those two. It wasn't the entire industry.
It's the same crap.
What's awful about that is I didn't hear about that, but there was a recent expose on some dairy farm in the UK, and there was footage of someone punching calves in the face, just like you said.
Yeah.
It was Surge, was it? Yeah.
It was Surge who put that out, I think, yeah.
That's happened multiple times in the past 5 years. It just so happens that whatever farm you go onto or whatever farm you can put secret cameras in, it just so happens that this stuff's going on. It's
Every
just
time?
an unbelievable coincidence.
Yeah.
But it's not happening when there's no cameras there.
No, of course not. Why would they do that? Imagine what they endure when, no one's looking. And we see what they endure when no one's looking. And, ultimately they're still being exploited for their bodies and for, the items they provide. And at the end of the day, like that's the worst part about all of this.
Yeah. We have I don't know if you use the term drop calf in America. I think bobby calf, you'll understand, which are the veal calves. So it's Friday morning market. They have the drop calf market, and you go in there and there's hundreds of little baby boy dairy cows. They have to be 10 days old. So, I mean, they look to me about 2 weeks old. Hundreds of them. No mums. They're just thrown into pens. They're sold, like I seen 3 sold for somewhere in the region of $60, 50 quid for 3 small ones one morning. And then they get loaded on the trucks, and a lot of them are shipped over to North Africa, Algeria. You're not allowed field pens here now, so they'll take them to either Holland into the continent, or else they'll go to North Africa and they put them into field pens over there. It's just absolutely these little gentlest wee souls that you can never imagine. It's just absolutely terrible.
It's ridiculous, and people don't realize they're paying for dairy is paying for this to happen as well. So that's why being vegetarian is not the ultimate goal. You're still paying for this to happen. So really sad.
Crazy.
So sad. Do you want to go with
Well,
I don't know if we've been talking for. I could sit here all night. This is a really good conversation.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the conversation. Something that we haven't got down on the questions is something I like to ask each guest that comes on. What does a typical day look like for you? Day in the life of Andrea Vee.
Busy. I'm in between jobs right now, so fortunately I got 2 weeks off of vacation. So this is great because I get to wake up and get all my activism tasks done. I get time to cuddle with my dog more. It's awesome. But after I work full time, I have a full-time job. So after I get off work, actually even at work, and this is something a lot of my coworkers commented on, is I'm sending voice notes. Like I'm trying to plan something. I'm doing some research. I'm posting something because I run the social media for DXD and Save locally. It's just a constant. You're replying to messages, going through events that are coming up to see if there's something that we want to do a protest on, like reading legal documents, reading research documents. It's a very busy day. It's very, very busy. And then obviously when there's actions, making sure everything's set up for that, getting materials prepared, making video. It's a lot.
I mean, that's tiring me out listening. But
I almost feel embarrassed talking to this lady. It's just
that's what I was going to say that earlier.
I feel like we should.
No.
No, but seriously, the amount of work and time that you put in, joking aside, it's unbelievable.
Well, I mean, to be honest, before lockdown hit here, we were literally out every single weekend doing something. You know what I mean? But what was I going to say there? Yeah. So that was really heavy sort of answer. So to lift it up a bit, and this isn't scheduled or anything, but it's a bit of a random one, right? But I was wondering, do you have a favorite dessert? Like, what's your favorite vegan dessert? I know it's really random, but it's just to bring the energy up again.
This question has never been asked before. I was wondering where you were going there.
I do.
Careful.
I do. I know. No, so it's very specific. So it's a like powdered donut with chocolate inside, and they sell it at this place called Choc, which is in Barcelona, and I think they're only in Barcelona, and I dream about this donut. I kid you not.
Wow.
I messaged their Instagram, and I was like, what would it take for you to mail me one of these?
Jeez.
It's so
There was something
good.
in the ether that was
Donuts
telling
are
me to
my
ask
favorite
you.
thing too.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, I used to go to Spain when I was a kid, and they did these. I mean, you've been to Barcelona and that. They do these like donuts in like a yellow box. There's like 4 in it, and they're like lemon glaze on them. I don't know if they're vegan or not because I haven't had them in ages. But they're like, oh my god! I used to bring them home on the plane, and then you get home and they'd be really hard because they never. There must be the pressure in the plane. So yeah, donuts are my thing too. What about you?
Me? I really like banana. So anything that's got banana. I mean, banoffee is pretty good, though I never have it. Favorite dessert? There's me asking you, and I'm not too sure. I do have quite a sweet tooth. I'll eat anything that's sweet and vegan. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, I just wanted to throw something in the chamber.
Let's go with the last question. We're almost at an hour. We tend to wrap it up around an hour because we're aware you've got a busy day and you've been spending so much time talking to us, Andrea. So what's your best advice for other activists?
My best advice for other activists. There's so many things, but I would definitely say, remember why you're doing this. Absolutely always remember who you're fighting for. Remember the life that they're living. Remember, the connection that you had when you saw one of these individuals going into slaughter. Completely keep them at the forefront in everything that you do in life. And as long as we're all doing that, we will achieve animal liberation as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all that you need to say, isn't it? Yeah. Don't forget the animals. Don't forget that this is urgent, and do everything you can to help.
Yeah. The urgency, that's a key too. And keeping the animals at the forefront will help you keep that urgency. Like, obviously we all have so much going on, just human life, capitalism, all of that jazz. Mm-hmm. We have so much on our plates. And then, with COVID coming in and people being restricted on what we can and cannot do, it's really easy to forget that focus. And, if you need to go and take a week, a month, a couple months off for you to get that focus, like by all means do it. But don't forget, because I see so many people, and this is not to shade anybody at all, but I see so many people, just leave and they don't come back. And I just like, for me, I don't understand. Like, I truly don't understand.
I think when that happens, because we've definitely seen that happen, I think it's a case of people seeing, heavy stuff and not considering the fact that when you are exposed to something like that, you should have some sort of self-care practice in place so it doesn't end up being like something you walk away from. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's almost like people are so traumatized that they forget to consider themselves, and it's really sad. But I think self-care, it's something I'm so passionate about, and it's something I want to talk about more within the vegan sphere, because I think it's like one of those keys to longevity and to, having that staying power for activists.
Definitely. Yeah, it's not talked about enough for sure. And unfortunately, like the things that stem from viewing these things, they're very, really serious conditions, and a lot of people don't have access to proper help. And I think that's why like I'm so opposed to all of the infighting, because it just creates so much more stress and, trauma for us. Like, to try to minimize this experience, the trauma from this experience, as much as possible.
Could I ask, Andrea, I know we've gone over there. Could I ask you one more question before you go? Because it's something I wanted to ask you. You do human rights stuff as well, which is very important. What are you involved in that? And just tell us briefly about that.
So as of recently, I've done a couple of Black Lives Matter protests here in the United States. Obviously, it's been absolutely chaotic what's been happening. And so I did organize a banner drop where a bunch of vegans, we hung messages in support of Black Lives Matter, and it was literally called Vegans for Black Lives Matter. And we took over 7 different freeway overpassages with messages of support. And I think, a lot of people tend to think that vegans don't care about other social justice movements. And for me, like, that's not the case. Like, I'm, again, a minority in the United States. I don't have that privilege to not care about other movements. But I've also done stuff with LGBTQ, women's rights, a lot of, very racist legislation in the United States, especially in Arizona, being by the border. There's a lot of like anti-immigration. So attending those actions.
I was reading into that a bit when you sent us information. Correct me if I'm wrong. You had written in the email HB 1070, but I think when I typed it into Google, I typed in HB 1070 Arizona into Google, it came up SB 1070. I mean,
it is SB.
But it's the same thing, isn't it?
So one's for the House, one's for the Senate.
Well, that's all that means.
Yeah. But
okay.
Yeah, it was a very,
that's crazy. I was reading about that.
Yeah. So for the people who aren't aware of what it is, it's literally giving the police the power to racially profile you to see if you're legally allowed to be in the country. And it's very ironic because, my family's been in the Southwest region of the current United States since before it was the United States. We've been here a long time. Yeah. And so, we were all born here, all of that. And I actually got pulled over under this law. I was driving and I think I had a busted window and I was on my way to school and I didn't have my ID. And they put me in zip ties. They put me in the back of the car. This is my very first time, having this type of interaction with the police. And like the most ironic thing about it is I was on my way to school where I was studying criminal justice. And so that's mad. That, right.
Real life case study.
Yeah. And so they literally had the right to check if I was a legal citizen based on probably my last name and my skin color. And it was just so heartbreaking that we're giving the police this type of power to do these type of things. And it was a really big wake-up call. It's actually one of the reasons why I decided to no longer pursue the criminal justice field. After I got my degree, I'm like, there's no way I could work in this system.
Because it's corrupt.
Yeah.
I've been following the Derek Chauvin trials on TV over here. So I've been, so we're now chipping in every day and watching bits of it. And just so sad. And I think the saddest thing of all was that we need a 4-week trial. Somebody murders somebody and everybody sees it. And then we have a 4-week trial where they try to get him off. It's like, I just can't get my head around the world sometimes.
That is the justice system in a nutshell.
Yeah. And people say justice is done, but the sad part of it, justice hasn't been done because a man lost his life. Exactly. And he never ever get it back. It's just so
exactly. Sad. Yeah, it's not justice at all. There's so much that has to occur before we can even, say that justice has happened. Like his daughter is never going to see her dad again, and that's not justice. Somebody, being behind bars is not justice. Is it a step in the right direction? 1,000%. But it's more accountability. It's not justice.
Yeah. Just loads of love coming in here in the comments. I think we'll wrap up with that. Andrea, I want to echo this comment. I'm not sure if this is a friend of yours or just somebody tuning in, but you are indeed an inspiration. And you are trying so hard to make the world a better place. And I just want to say it's appreciated. And I think it's amazing, everything that you do. What do you think?
Yeah. I was talking to you before the show about passion, and it has such an awesome effect that it just, when you talk with people who feel the same way, it kind of reignites you and gives you, more power to push yourself to do more. I'm just excited because, let me see. Yeah, so I think next Saturday is the first day that we can get back out on the streets and talk to people, and I'm bursting. But yeah, it's awesome talking to someone who feels so passionate. And thank you for your time and your energy and your continued efforts. Look after yourself. I know you will, and keep fighting the good fight. And thanks so much, Andrea.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I've enjoyed this a lot. I could stay here and chat all night.
Me too.
Great, thanks.
We'll have a toast.
I think I told you 35, 40 minutes on the email, and we're like way over the hour now. So I know you're a busy lady, and we will let you go. But
we should do a shot in your honor. Would you Would you stay there if I went and got a shot?
Yeah,
What would you-
go ahead.
We'll have a toast for Andrea.
Okay, I have to drive
Do
home.
Just one.
Okay, right, apparently I'm doing a shot.
It's
You better be quick.
hang on, I got it here.
Are we making Andrea wait here until we do a shot? Yeah.
One sec.
Oh
No,
my-
we're doing it for you. Okay, we will have a toast. We got some.
If it wasn't 12:30 in the afternoon, I'd do one with you, but I have to drive too right now.
No,
Make
that's
mine
cool.
small. No, you do it. I'm not.
Okay,
I'm
so we
driving.
got we got Apple Jack Daniels.
Oh
Thanks
yeah.
so much, Andrea.
Cheers.
It's really, really good.
I've never had it.
It's really good.
Andrea, thank you so much.
Cheers.
He's gone off script, but anyway,
You have one?
I'll taste it later. No, I'm driving.
Okay.
We're
Andrea,
going to hear in 20 minutes that vegans are alcoholics. Just wait. People are going to get a hold of this.
It's just how I'm feeling. I'm celebrating. It's been awesome.
This is
Andrea,
great.
thank you so much. I'm going to end the broadcast now, but thanks so much for being with us. And for everybody who's watched the show and who will watch, it'll be available to watch on the page as well. It remains there, so people will be tuning in afterwards as well. So thanks to you and thanks to everybody that's been tuning in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks,
Bye.
Andrea. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Until next time, I guess.
Until next time, yeah. That was awesome. We're still on, by the way.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Until next time. I mean, if you want to decompress that or...
No, I just really enjoyed that show. She's an awesome activist.
Yeah, I
It's
just
really
love talking to
Inspiring.
people who are passionate.
Yeah, and she's really passionate about it. So
You can tell. Check out her Instagram if you haven't checked it out, Andrea for Liberation, and follow her and see what she's up to. She's very active and just so inspiring.
Cool.
Have a good weekend, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. It means the world to us.
And Shane is watching. See you tomorrow. I'm gonna call up at some point.
Cool.
So yeah, bye everybody.
See you later.